Hello, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and wherever you are in this wide, wonderful, beautiful world that we live in, you are very welcome to the Global Sales Leader podcast. I'm your host, Jason Cooper. I am actually the sales relationship coach. Everything in sales is always about that relationship, always about that connection with the other person, because they're at the end of the day, they are people, and we are connecting with the other person to help and give value, because it's all about value. It's all about how much you can give to the other person. So anyway, today I've got a really good special guest, and I always say that because every week I have a phenomenal guest, and today, without further ado, is Mark Hunter. You're welcome, Mark. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. It's great to be on your show and be able to talk with your audience the world over.
Excellent. So we are talking about a mind for sales, really. And that's an area that I'm fascinated with, really, because it's some people just absolutely phenomenal, and they just got that mindset for sales, and other people just struggle to get there. And there's a great thing in there, but what do they do particularly to make themselves more successful? But before I go into anything further, Mark has been doing sales in this for 30 plus years in leadership, an eclectic array of experience, recognized as the top most influential sales and marketing leaders globally, and has traveled all around the world and delivered some phenomenal results for some awesome clients, likes of Coca-Cola, Salesforce, Lenovo. Oh, we'll talk about Lenovo in a while, but I've got a really good friend in there. So, Mark, I'm only going to give a little bit of a synopsis, because what were the anchor points along the way that got you into sales? And if you can give us a little bit of context behind who you are as well, because I'm fascinated by sales.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting. Sales wasn't what I really set out to be in. I mean, I went to college not to be in sales. I only really wound up in sales is because I got a number of speeding tickets and I could not afford car insurance.
Oh dear.
And yeah, so I wound up having to get a job that supplied me with a company car. And so that was really how I wound up in sales. There was no great conspiracy, no plan or anything like that. What was interesting was my first two sales jobs didn't work out. They did not work out at all. And I got fired from my first one. I got fired from my second one. And it was finally on my third sales job. And I still remember it well, still with a company car, that I remember my boss sat me down, and I talk about it in my book, A Mind for Sales. I share this entire story because it's so many people can relate to it.
Yeah.
That it really, I had to go through kind of a whole transition. My boss sitting me down and really asking me why I was in sales. And it had to be something more than just because I got a free car. Okay. But that, yeah, so it was an absolute journey for me in those early years, as to why I was in sales. But the more I've been in sales, the more I realize it's about helping people. And when you really realize it's about helping people, suddenly it makes all the difference in the world. And when you can make a difference with people, because you see somebody who you can help, it really is kind of cool when you can reach out and help them. That, to me, that's what sales is. Sales is help. Sales is helping people, helping others see and achieve what they did not think was possible.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's
it
something
is.
pretty cool to wake up to.
Yeah, it's just if you start to change the relationship to how you actually see sales, rather than I need to sell, I need to sell, I need to sell. It's all of a sudden the barriers come up in your head, and it's like you're desperate for it, as opposed to going, I need to add value here. I'm happy to add value here. So out of that, the third job that you have, that eureka moment, what made you suddenly change to being this? Wow, yeah, I get it now. But what else do I need to do to get this?
Well, I remember very vividly my boss, it was my boss's boss, Bob Stone. I still remember this to this day. He called me into his office and he sat me down and he asked me why I was in sales. He asked me if I thought I was making a difference. He thought if I was making an impact with customers. And it was that moment. It was really, I mean, I thought I was getting fired again. I mean, I really thought I was going to get fired from my third sales job.
Oh, you're been there.
And he really sat me down and had me really rethink why I was in sales. That began the process. Now, did it change overnight? No. But over the subsequent years, I really began to see that message that he sat me down and shared with me. I mean, I can tell you exactly what I was wearing that day.
Mhm.
I can remember his office. I remember every detail about that meeting. But it was one of those meetings that it really, okay, now I begin to see. This is what sales, too many people treat sales or view sales. They view customers as if they were bowling pins, and it's their objective just to knock them down. Just knock them down, take their money and run. But that's not what sales is. Sales is about relationships. It's one of the reasons, and I know you talk about this.
Mhm.
It's the only good sale is the one that leads to the next sale. We don't close deals, we open relationships. And when you
Absolutely.
begin to look at sales in that regard, it changes everything.
Yeah, I noticed that actually when I was looking internally, I don't know, about 10 years ago, and things just weren't working out. I've been in sales for many years, but I had one of those moments, just nothing was working out. And I was hugely uh, experienced, worked in multiple markets across the globe, and I just couldn't sell. And I had to look inside, and I actually really had to start to learn again and just to understand the sales process again. And I don't think ever since then, I've just been reading, going to seminars, going to courses. And I don't think I can ever stop that now, because I think once you start to get that hunger and thirst and desire to improve yourself and to get better, and that sort of leads me on to the mindset. So, what does make a good mindset?
Well,
Because it does take time.
it does take time, and what you did was a perfect setup for the book, because sales is about having a mind, and that's why I wrote the book, A Mind for Sales, because sales is not a step-by-step process. People love to think, oh, if I just break it down into these steps, I can be successful. Sales is an emotional, it's a mental game. And the most difficult customer any salesperson deals with is themselves. It's their own mind.
Yeah.
And until you master the mind, this is where I tell sales, you have to do a couple things. One, you have to believe not in what you sell, you have to believe in the outcome that you create. There's a big difference there. It's not what you sell. Customers don't care what you sell. They want a solution. They want an outcome. That's what you have to focus in on. When you focus on the outcome, now it suddenly begins to shift. Second piece is this, especially when it comes to prospecting. If you know you can help someone, you have an obligation to reach out to them. If you were walking down the street and you saw a house that was on fire and you didn't know the people, would you say, well, you know what, maybe I'll run into them in the grocery store or somewhere in a few weeks. Maybe I'll send them a Facebook message. No, you would run and immediately help them.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course you would.
See, that's what sales is.
Yeah.
See, sales is if you know you can help someone, you have an obligation to reach out to them. And if you don't reach out and help them, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing them a disservice. Because at the end, yeah.
I was going to say, which absolutely leads us on to if you're helping someone, let's look at the way that we can start the initial conversation off. Because if we're knocking at that door and the fire's coming up, how do we get in through that door and the house is on fire? What do we need to do? Do we need to prepare ourselves, or do we just dart through the door? What do we do?
Well, that's the whole thing. You first have to have the mental mindset, because the objective or the result you get coming out of a sale is determined by the mindset you had going into the sale.
Yeah.
So think about this. You're standing at this door, and if you don't think you're going to be successful being able to get these people out of this fire, you're not going to enter it. But if you know, wait, I know I can do this, you are going to get them out. You are going to be. So your mindset going in determines the results you get coming out. This is fundamental. And it comes back to, again, this simple belief that I have to take the time to listen. We were talking about this just before we hit the record button. The power of listening. And I have to understand where you're coming from, because everybody's got a different set of circumstances. Everybody comes at things differently. And until I take the time to really understand and listen and hear from you, how am I going to know how I can help you? If I sit there and we'll say I'm a doctor, and you come into my office and I suddenly give you a prescription without having first diagnosed you, I'm committing malpractice.
Yep, absolutely.
And yet that's what salespeople do time and time again.
I was going to say that, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark, isn't it the same as, because I get this, and I'm sure you get this all the time on social media, LinkedIn especially. I had this person reach out to me. I'm not going to say his name, but he just invited himself and gave me verbal diarrhea on the message. I'm an expert, this, that, and that, and I charge 800. And he was a sales trainer. I said, have you read my profile? Where's the relationship here? Where's the conversation? If I came and knocked on your door and handed you a flyer, here's 800 euros worth of training, do you want to buy? What would you do? And it's exactly the same thing as what you're alluding to, because it's that relationship, it's that conversation, it's listening to understand.
You just opened up so many boxes there that we could unpack for hours, but it's one of the reasons why I can't stand social selling, because I think social selling is neither social nor selling. Because
exactly.
We haven't taken the time to get to know the person.
Yeah.
This is, how many times, I call it click. It's not my line. I've heard it from a number of other people, but click and pitch.
Yeah.
Just because you click and connect with somebody doesn't mean you can pitch them. No. It's about creating that relationship. This is what's very interesting. We have to remember something very interesting. Trust is the currency of business.
Absolutely.
Trust is the currency of business. And people want to do business with people who they trust. That's just a given. So what I want to do is I want to sit there and say, how do I demonstrate my ability that you can have trust in me? And I can have trust in you. Now, to do that, that means I got to practice authenticity and integrity.
Yeah.
See, because again, unless I put those three things together, it's not going to happen. And I can only do that if I'm focused on you. Because otherwise, it's all about me. No, it's not about me. It's about you. I want to help you.
A friend of mine that I interviewed a couple of years back, actually, and he said something that always resonates with me. And he said, if you're in the room, be in the room. And such a good way of saying it is going, you hit the nail on the head, really. If you're meeting a customer, prospect, client, or whatever it might be, you better be in that room. You better listen to them, listen to understand, because it is about understanding them. You have to say it from an empathetic point of view, a listening point of view, or whatever it might be. If you're stuck and you miss something, you go, sorry, would you mind saying that again? Or you paraphrase it back to them or package it back to them. The analogy that I like to give is, if you're in a really posh restaurant, you go to those Michelin star restaurants every now and again, if you're lucky enough, the waiter comes round, he asks every single person exactly what they want to eat, medium rare steak, whatever. And at the end of it, sir, here's a medium rare steak. You wanted that with this, that, and the other. And here's the red wine Chateauneuf de Pape. And then the other people have all different things. But what he's doing, he's listened, and he's actually not written anything down. He's actually retained it in his head, and he's given it back to them and for them to agree. And that's similar to in sales. And that's what the great, wonderful waiters do, is they package it back. So you understood, and the other person appreciates it.
And think about what that wait person does. Creates a relationship. Yeah. And as a result, you're sitting there dining in that restaurant, you place more trust in them. We'll say you're thinking of dessert, and you ask them, what dessert do you think we should have? And because there's a level of trust, because that waiter took the time to demonstrate a commitment to you to listen.
Yeah.
And see, now stop and think about this also. There's a line I love to use. The best presentation ever given is the presentation never made. Now think about that for a moment. Best presentation ever made. That waiter knows his menu. He knows everything about the menu. But he doesn't have to walk through line by line. Whatever question you ask, he can answer. Because he's having a conversation with you. And when
if he doesn't know the answer, he will ask. It will go back to the kitchen.
He's authentic. He's real. He's not trying to be somebody he's not.
Yeah.
And this is what, especially, we've come through this whole pandemic thing and everything. This is what people are looking for more than ever. They want to have authentic relationships with real people.
Yeah.
And when they do that, it's amazing what happens. Yeah.
Isn't it the same as I've had lots of conversations about this on Clubhouse and other places like that, because I moderate a couple of rooms on there. And the script, where would you use a script or not? And I'm going to throw that. I already know the answer to myself, but where would you throw a script in there or not?
Well, I believe every salesperson has to have a script.
Yeah.
But they don't use it. Now, look, here's the example. Here's the example. If you go to a Broadway show and you're watching these performers, they're just brilliant. This is just a brilliant performance of whatever show you're seeing. They're not reading from a script word for word. I mean, it's not like they have a script in front, but they know their content so well.
Yeah.
That it just comes off as a conversation between two performers on stage or three performers or four performers. And when somebody does something a little bit different, the other one just picks it up and runs with it. And it just becomes natural. But it started off by each of those actors sitting down at a table and having a reading. And they read through the script. But they know it so well, they don't need it.
Yeah.
That's where we have to be as salespeople.
I think that's mastery. Once you get up to a certain level, you practice your pitch until it's gone into the subconscious mind, and then you can just reel it backwards, reel it frontwards. Something that I like to do is if I'm training and coaching, I get people to memorize it and record it, put it on. We've got so many gadgets around us now. We can do everything that we like. It's amazing what we can do. Record it. Do video, do whatever, and hear yourself speaking, because once you hear yourself, you know what other people can hear of you, so you can use your words more pronouncedly, so people can resonate, and you can use your communication to a higher degree.
Yeah, but see, here's the difference between average salespeople and great salespeople.
Yeah.
Average salespeople will say, I want to understand my material. I want to understand my content. I want to understand how to sell so I don't get it wrong. Or they want to do it till they get it right.
Yeah.
The great salesperson is going to do it going to rehearse, practice. So they never, ever, ever, ever get it wrong. Now think about that. One person does it to try to get it right. The other person does it so they never ever get it wrong, and that's the difference in the level. And I think this is what separates. There's a reason why great salespeople are great salespeople.
So what makes the 2%? What makes the 2% of the 2% of the global top people?
Because they're so laser focused, they're so committed, and they're disciplined. I firmly believe the two ingredients are discipline and time management.
Yeah.
And the two really go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. They do. I totally concur with that. Yeah, it is time. And you suggested in one of your books, your last book, about the habit. Because I'm fascinated by habits. Like I've read all the James Clear books and all of the other habits of success and all that. And it's but in sales, is it the same principles or is it different principles? Or
no, it's the exact same thing. I mean, James Clear in the book Atomic Habits, phenomenal book. If any listener has not read it, go get it, read it, because
Absolutely.
breaks it down in those tiny little things that you just do routinely. I get up every morning. My alarm goes off at 4:50 a.m. and there's a set routine that I go through. Boom, 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 boom. And because I know if I do this, it gets the rest of my day going,
Yeah.
And I have another rule that I always say, I want to accomplish something significant before 10 a.m. every day. Before 10 a.m. every day, I want to. Now, because I get up at 4:50 in the morning,
Gives you a lot of time, doesn't it?
I change it to the 8 a.m. rule. But by 8 a.m., I want to have accomplished something significant. Because what does that do? That now ensures that I've had a good day. If the rest of the day were to fall apart, I still would have had a good day. But more than times than not, it's because now I'm enthused, I'm excited. And today I'm having just a magnificent day. It's just been one thing after another because I was up at 4:50 and I was very focused and everything has been spot on. And yet it has been an incredibly busy day. And when we get done here, it'll be about 3:30 in the afternoon here, but I've got another 3-4 hours of work and I'm excited because of all the other stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
But it's discipline, time management.
Yeah, it is. What's the saying? You work hard to make your luck. I think that's the wrong expression, but you do. It is.
Well,
it is.
You do. People will sit there and say, "Oh, they're just lucky. They're just lucky." Yeah. No, they've put themselves in a position to be lucky because they've put in the reps, they've put in the motions, they've done the things. This is what I say time and time again. I saw an email come through today, and wow, it was a major win. I'd say I was lucky. It was luck. No, it's because over the previous 4, 5, 6 years, I've been just disciplined doing this, and it paid out today. Yeah. But this is the difference between average and great. And the other thing about a mind for sales in the book, I talk about, you got to sustain it. You got to sustain it. Yeah. I will challenge people. People are quick to put together a sales process. This is the sales process we're going to use. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, it's not showing any results. Let's do something different. And I'll say this, you know what's funny? Even a bad sales process worked enough for a long enough time will become a good process. Yeah. You've got to be willing to put the effort into it and to make it happen. And that's what I find so many salespeople just don't do. Stick with it. Be disciplined. Yeah. Disciplined.
It will happen eventually. But
yes.
You have to really focus on it. It's something that I learned. You have to really, really work bloody hard. It is that iceberg effect. I know that's been used many times. I've used it loads of times, but it is the stuff that happens underneath that no one sees. You don't see people waking up at 4 or 5 in the morning, putting the hours, putting the grit in, putting the blood, sweat, and tears, and also the failures as well, because we have all failed at something or other, but then we've learned to do something slightly better the next time.
I love that. If we're not failing, we're not trying hard enough.
Yeah.
The only failure is failing to learn from your failures.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. If you fail and learn something from it, you didn't fail.
I always like to say there's no such thing as failure, only feedback.
Yeah. I love that.
You feed forward for the next time. Marshall Goldsmith classic saying is feed forward, which is you learn from the present and you push it into the future. It's going, well, that was then, I've learned from that. So next time I'm going to do it differently.
Right. I have made so many mistakes, but you know what? You just move on. Yep. You just move on. I was on the phone earlier today with a salesperson who had a difficult phone call the other day, and they were replaying it back to me. We were kind of going through it, and you're right. It was a tough call. But I said, this is a very good call because you learned a tremendous amount from it. I had a situation a couple of years ago where I blew a pretty wonderful opportunity, but I learned from it. I hired a coach and navigated me through, and I came out the other end much, much better. And I'm far better off.
And I think us professionals, we might train, we might coach other people, but we need a coach as well.
I I mean, I had people when I reached out and hired this coach. I had some very close friends about, why did you do that? That was a lot of money. That was a lot of money. I said, no, but I needed it.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best investments I ever made.
I've done that
Yeah.
exactly the same way. It really helped me in
Mhm.
branding, positioning myself,
Yeah.
articulating myself in the right way.
Yeah.
Because, the best people out there have a coach. A friend of mine used to coach Conor McGregor, the mixed martial artist, but he would have about 7 coaches, but
You're
obviously
right.
has the money.
Yes.
But even just get one, doesn't matter. You know, or get 2, someone from another discipline. It doesn't really matter. It could be from the sales, it could be from the performance, could be from the mindset, could be for something else if you have the monies to do it. But I think it's an
A-
investment in yourself.
And almost, you almost can't allow that lack of monies, because here's the whole thing. Anything you do is going to have an ROI if you do it right. So
Yeah.
if I invest the money, I'm going to get an ROI. I'm going to be better off. There is a reason why successful people are successful people, because they're willing to make the investment.
Yeah.
I had somebody share with me years ago, said one of the biggest problems people have, and I firmly believe this, is we set too small goals. And we set too small. Why should we be dismayed with our small results because we've set small goals?
Walt Disney. How
Right.
much of a big goal was that? Like,
There you go.
first
There you go.
person to put dream big,
Right.
imagine it in his
Right.
mind, and then
Right.
he produced something on screen.
But see, that was the mind. See, this whole thing, because so many people think small because their mind is thinking small. And this comes back to who you allow yourself to associate with.
Yeah.
If you associate with small thinking people, that's going to be your mindset. You have, I mean, I see this play out time and time again. You have to be very careful with who you associate with. You have to,
Yeah.
because it will come.
Associate with, I like to say, because I do a bit of running, I like to chase people that are faster than me, run with people that are faster than me, so I can catch them. I did it so well the other week. I was running down the mountain and I broke my foot. But
Oh.
I had that clear goal in my head, and I'm just recovering from it now. But I want to get back up there and do it again. Not break my foot, but I want to get up there.
Well, that's it.
And
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got a goal that I want to run a marathon in September,
oh well,
and but I just had minor surgery, and I can't work out. Wednesday of this week, in 2 more days, is when I'll be able to work out for the first time in 2 weeks, and I'm anxious because it's coming up, the latter part of March, and I got to get going. I want to get going, and I want to get back, and I'm not allowing this surgery and the fact that I could not work out for a couple of weeks to stop me. No, no,
well,
that
that's the same, exactly
that's
the
an
same way.
excuse. That's an easy way out.
Yeah.
I'm not buying that. I am not buying that at all. Yeah.
But I want to do an ultra marathon this year. And what that is running in the mountains doing a marathon. That's my goal. I've never done it before.
I'll tell you
Want to do it
what,
last
that
year.
is that you are way ahead of me. So don't challenge me, because otherwise I'm gonna have to change my goals. So
No, yeah, well, I'll challenge you to both of us achieve it this
yeah,
year.
right, right.
So
Well,
if
and
you do it, I will do it.
see, and that brings up something else that's interesting. You have to set your own goals, and you have to define your own level. Don't allow others to define success for you.
Yeah.
Only you can define your level of success.
I
If
would
you
say
allow,
that's accountability to yourself.
yes, because if you allow others to define success for you, you'll be the most unhappy individual in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
But I mean, I work with people around me who are far more successful than me, and I work with people who are not. But it fine. I set my goals. I measure my success. I measure my things, and I'm extremely happy. And my goal is to just keep pushing forward and saying, how do I remove this bottleneck? How do I remove this bottleneck to become more efficient, more effective? And whether you're in sales, small business, whatever your job, you want to ask yourself, what's the bottleneck in what you do? The thing that just, and if you can fix that, then boom, focus. And many times the bottleneck is something very small.
I was going to say, while you're actually speaking, and I was listening to what you were saying, but it's also how we communicate to ourselves, how we speak to our internal
Yeah.
person that's sitting on our shoulders, the good got good cop, bad cop, but it is in our minds and the way our brains are built. Majority of the time, it's negative language, but you have to think about how to control this language that you have in your inner landscape, your reptilian brain, which is the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. But we have to control that because that's the devil inside of our head. But we have to speak to ourselves in a more of a positive, productive way. But that takes time and practice to do that as well. It goes back to the mindset again.
Yeah, but again, what are we, I mean, we're talking sales, but we're talking mindset, because you're never going to be successful in sales until you correct your mindset.
Yeah.
Until you take, when you take your mindset to the next level, your sales will go to the next level. Yeah. Don't think you're going to get your sales to the next level. It's going to fix your mindset. No, you got to fix your mindset first.
I absolutely concur with that, because I always believe the first step is always the mindset. Then you look at all the other areas. I don't think there's any, I hate the term, the magic formula of sales success or whatever it might be. Look, there's lots of processes that's been replicated. It's pretty much the similar all the way through, regardless of whatever company you're working for. It's fairly similar. You might use a different acronym for this, that, and the other, but it's pretty much the same, really.
Without a doubt, yeah.
So, Mark, question I was going to ask you: if you were interviewing you, what question would you ask you?
Wow, that's a great one. I would want to ask myself, what's the one thing that I could do differently tomorrow that would improve my sales ability? So now you want me to answer that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. If you were talking to you, then
the one thing would be to eliminate on my calendar everything but revenue producing items. If it's not revenue producing or helping me achieve my goals, I'm not going to do it. That's going to be the single biggest thing that's going to move my level of success.
And name me one other thing that you would say to yourself as well.
The other simple thing is it's the mindset. I got to be very careful with who I associate with. And if that person is not dancing with a positive mindset, I don't want to dance with them. I don't care who they are. I have to dance with positive people.
Yeah, because they do suck the life out of you. If you're surrounded by negative people, I know people like that. They all of a sudden you just feel your body language changes, and you go inside. You go, oh, just go away, because it's not where I want to be. I just want to be up. I know you have to look at the challenges and this, that, and the other, but it's how quickly you bounce back with things. So, Mark, you've been absolutely phenomenal. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. So how can people find out more about you? I've got a ticket going down below.
Yeah, well, the best way that is just go out to the website, thesaleshunter.com. People ask me, what was your name before you changed it? No, that's been my name. It's a great name. So I had to be in sales, right? Thesaleshunter.com. Best way to get in touch with me. Best way. I got tons of things out there that you can grab, you can download and grab. And of course, the book, A Mind for Sales, and my other books, High Profit Prospecting and High Profit Selling.
That's absolutely awesome. So, look, I really appreciate you coming on today. Look, I think we could actually talk for hours, and maybe we'll have you back on a later stage, and I look forward to that. So, thank you once again. You've been listening to the Global Sales Leader podcast. I'm your host, Jason Cooper. You can find me at jasoncooper.io, LinkedIn, like podcast. It's all over podcast. Look, if you want to hear phenomenal people like Mark Hunter, I like to say, if you take one thing out of today's conversation that can excel you forward so you can achieve your goal, I think we've both done our job really well today. So thank you once again.
Thank you for having me. Great selling.